What is good, everyone? This is the LFX podcast here. I'm your host, Haris Fakar, and today is another episode of the future where I call in people that have great expertise in any sort of technology, and we like to discuss the future of how this technology will play, or to see how the future really holds for this sort of trajectory. So for today, I have Eli the Computer Guy. Not Bill Nye the Science Guy, but Eli the Computer Guy. I don't know, I kind of had to do that, and he's here to talk more about computers as he's very big, of course, Eli the Computer Guy, and he is very big on politics and startup culture, and also very big on the tech scene as he's originally from North Carolina, and then he was able to serve in the U.S. Army. I believe so, right?
Yep. Serving in the army back
Yes,
in the 90s. Yep.
exactly. He served in the Army back in the 90s, and now he just likes to interview any big tech guys, and he likes to join in and see what's on the ride. So Eli, feel free to introduce yourself. I did kind of give that brief introduction, but I think you can give a better one.
Fair enough. I don't know. I'm known as Eli the Computer Guy. I've been doing tech since 90s. Almost 30 years I've been in this profession, which is very weird. I started in the Army in 96. I was in the enterprise world, got my MCSE and NT 4.0 back in 2000. Wound up being a consultant, wound up building a business, had 9 employees at one time. Zigged when I should have zagged right before the Great Recession. Ended up doing YouTube videos, and so now I've got, 1.1 million subscribers on YouTube.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so I'm a middle-aged man screaming at clouds, as they say, and so I talk about things going on in the technology world, and then I interview technology professionals. So we just met at Web Summit up in Vancouver, and while I was there, I was interviewing some founders of tech and AI companies.
Yeah, it was funny how we kind of met. We kind of just bumped into each other, and then we had this long conversation about how the tech world used to kind of just be these rebellions, and then now it's just everyone's trying to fit into what the standards of the tech world now. It's very interesting how we kind of see the world has come across, especially since now I think people have kind of see the value of, okay, innovation is key. But now that we live in this, let's say, digitalized world, now we see so many stories of how these people are kind of just leaving their jobs or leaving their education just so that they can work on their ideas. And sometimes it's a success, sometimes it's not. And now, because maybe many people are at that, they like to go to these things such as Web Summit and just a network trying to find their best case scenario. The funny thing was that we pointed out at the Web Summit was that there was this long line for this after party. There was this long line, and Eli and I kind of butted in saying, okay, we're not gonna win this line for too long. And then we said, yeah, this is kind of how innovators should be. This is how innovators should be. This should be kind of more of the rebellions. That's how they kind of were in the past. And waiting in this long line just to find maybe network or talk to one person is not really going to be worth it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I don't understand. Like I said, I remember the days when we were revolutionaries, or basically we're just complete and utter pains in the asses that nobody wanted to deal with. And yeah, it's weird. Like you go to Web Summit, and so you have all these innovators or whatever. And yeah, it was like an hour-long line to get into the after party. And then once we got into the after party, there was it was like a 30-minute line just to get a single beer. And that's where I started screaming at you and said, you know what? I'm just gonna go somewhere else and get a beer because this is stupid. But anyways, yeah.
Well, yeah. Yeah, well, people like to do what they like to do, right? And it kind of got funny. The people that got the drinks, they were able to sell it themselves because they knew the line was so long.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before I kind of get to the questions, I'm just gonna like to first thank you, Eli, for deciding to take your time and effort for being on this podcast, and you're obviously okay with me just asking you a few questions for what I believe you have the expertise in, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I hope hopefully you woke up on the right side of the bed, because these might be questions you're used to answering, but you're probably not used to answering at the same time. If I were to say, what technologies do you think will actually change society in the next 10 years beyond just AI and like these cool gadgets that make jobs easier? So, what do you believe?
I think the next 10 years, I don't know, if everything doesn't go sideways, which it probably will.
Like another world war, are you saying?
Well, it's my personal administration down here. Oh, golly. Anyways, we're not going to get into that. If things don't go sideways, I think identification technologies in the physical world. So, like, I was thinking about this, like with Airbnb or Uber And in the modern world, we have so many people that are willing to provide services and have resources, and we have people that want services and want resources. But the whole question is trustworthiness. So like I've been using Airbnb a lot lately. And so Airbnb has this real stupid system to it where both sides rate each other. Ergo, both sides don't rate each other poorly.
Yeah.
Like, so I went to an Airbnb and it was just a disaster. But my wife refused to give them anything less than a 5-star review because if we give them less than a 5-star review, they will give us less than a 5-star review.
Yeah.
And so I think technology going into the future, if they can figure out a way to create systems that go across the board so that you have like a profile that goes across Airbnb and Uber and Lyft and all these things, basically like a trustworthiness profile so that people feel safer doing transactions with each other, regardless of how well they personally know each other. I think that will be a tremendous boon. And I think that will push society forward. A lot of the other
Interesting. Is that really like kind of a decentralized blockchain you're talking about?
Fuck no. Fuck the blockchain. We get to be honest here, right? Like you met
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
You
yeah.
called me here. I want to be honest. Fuck the goddamn. I hate the fucking blockchain.
No,
Blockchain.
no, because I'm kind of one the way how I'm picturing what you're saying is that we have this one profile that just is scattered throughout, and where we are able to use our brand to book services such as Uber, Airbnb, or even let's say we're trying to book a hotel and they do like a personal check, a background check, right? They'll
Yeah.
be able to see like our record or like our ratings and everything. So I'm kind of wondering if we're not at that now, how do you think that would really affect, let's say, the people in person? Because many people do value their privacy. Many people might not really give the truth, right? They'll just say their random things. They might be able to create another profile for that. How in terms of privacy, how does that really scale?
Well, but if, again, the privacy thing is a question. So the blockchain, I don't know, you got 5 hours. The blockchain is a database type that is relevant for about, I don't know, 0.0001% of all use cases. So like when I think about it, it's more actually just taking possibly companies that are here or companies to be created in the future. Like think about like with LinkedIn. So with LinkedIn,
Yeah,
they're really pushing now for that physical identification, however well that works. You upload your government IDs, you have the people that follow you there, you have the recommendations there. And so if you could tie like Airbnb and Uber and all that kind of stuff almost into like a LinkedIn type profile, and you actually kind of expanded that out. Think about like it's really interesting with Microsoft. So Microsoft really just dominated the enterprise world 20 years ago with something called Active Directory. So what Active Directory allows you to do is when you log in, you get these access control keys, and that gives you access to printers and files and all that kind of stuff. What's curious in the IoT world is you can actually extend that onto the physical world, so that the network knows who you are, and so when you open a door, the door simply opens for you.
yeah,
And so that's where I would think with it is, again, basically some kind of identity service. Again, you have Sam Altman creating his little eyeball scanning thing. It'll probably be a more centralized service. Again, blockchain doesn't make a lot of sense for a lot of these things. And yeah, that's my thought. I don't know. Maybe it'll be a spinoff of Uber. Maybe Airbnb will see it as a profit center, and they'll create their own identity service or something. I don't know.
so you're saying on the biometric side of things, that's the biggest change we'll be able to see in the next 10 years.
Well, no, it's the tying. It's the again, that's the whole. There's like this. There's authentic. When you deal with security, there's authentication and there's identification. So authentication basically means you have a username and password. So anybody has that
Yeah,
username and password, right? So identification though is that it's me. So I am actually connected to that user ID. And so yeah, I don't know. I don't know that it would necessarily be the biometric system, but I think it's going to be something on when we have a better job of digitally connecting me to my ID and then creating a historical record of my ID. I think that's going to change a lot of stuff.
what would that specifically change?
Well, because then you can just you can imagine walking into a job interview,
Yeah,
and basically they don't have to look at any of your recommendations. Let's say it's on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. So let's say your last five bosses gave you 5-star reviews. You can actually go back and track those bosses, verify that they actually work, and you can verify their thing. So when I sit down and I talk with you, I know you actually did work with these companies. I know you got 5-star reviews. I know exactly what you did. That makes me a lot more comfortable to do this interview.
Interesting.
Like right now, like if I'm going to do an interview, I'll either get this resume that's a piece of paper or whatever comes in. And again, it's a lot of information, but there's no validation of what that goes back to.
Yeah, and it's not just specifically for applying to jobs. It's also for if you're trying to book services, booking Airbnb,
Yeah.
Uber. Yeah, it's gonna be on a broader surface. That's a very interesting take. Every time I ask people these questions, they just normally say we're just gonna get into more of a digital view, or like AI is gonna take over our jobs. They're all screaming about. They're all screaming how maybe in the next 10 years, of course, we're gonna have a different life, but maybe it may not be so different in the sense of AI. Of course, is changing every day, and technology is changing every day.
Yeah.
Let's see how useful it is for really to tie in like the human behavior and also make advancements in technology. I think that's always been the issue, right?
Yeah.
So now that we're kind of getting into this, we're kind of going into this role of saying, okay, maybe identification or maybe with technology just improving. So where do you see traditional like IT roles or just AI traditional roles in like IT or these? I remember when we were at Web Summit, we were talking about like the massive layoff problem, and it was more of a people issue. But then, where do you see these traditional IT roles going into the world of AI or these low code tools or just cloud services?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the interesting things with technology professionals is we don't admit that we're the evil ones, which I always find is fascinating. We always think we're the good guys, and we're not. So, our job as technology professionals is fundamentally to get other employees fired. You walk in the door, your job is to eliminate other jobs. That's what efficiency is at the end of the day.
Yeah,
So, the concept
that's
is we get paid so that the company can either ship more product with fewer resources, or they can ship the same amount of product at less of a cost. Basically, that means is get other people fired. What I find fascinating is most technology people don't grasp that we're also employees.
yeah,
Just like our
yeah.
job is to eliminate warehouse workers, somebody else's job is to eliminate us. And so, like in the old school IT world, so again, MCSE, CCNA, A plus world, what we saw back around the 2010 timeframe is orchestration software came in. So it wasn't Ansible yet, but like Puppet came in, Chef came in. A lot of these tools came in to automate administration and infrastructure. And so I remember, I think it was Interop, New York, I think it was 2012. This one CIO came up and literally said they had like doubled the headcount at their company and eliminated a quarter of their tech staff at the exact same time.
What?
And this was 2012, right? So this is
Yeah,
my
this is
old. Yeah.
2000.
So it's like you double the headcount and fire 25% of your support personnel. And they were doing better than ever, right? And so what I think a lot of coders and a lot of the modern IT people don't realize is they've been getting hired in what's called a low interest rate environment. So interest rates in the United States have been very low. And so there's been a tremendous amount of investment into technology and technology companies. And so a lot of people have gotten hired when they probably shouldn't have gotten hired. So you can either focus on efficiency or you
Yeah.
can hire people. And so basically, I think all that's going to really happen now is that companies have stopped hiring. They've started getting rid of people. So as they get rid of people, they're going to increase efficiency of tech employees. And so whether that's through better documentation, whether it's through better work order, task management systems, whether through its automation procedures, the rest of it, I think it's just going to be a bloodbath in the tech industry of they're going to realize they need a fraction of the staff to actually support the projects that they have. And again, like, so that's where like people talk about AI. And again, AI is a component of it, but it's more like AI is a component of the automation system, right?
And
So
so it's going to be harder and harder to get a job for people in those roles.
well, yeah, because I actually just did a video to get published tomorrow. So right now, as of today, computer science graduates here in the United States now have a 6.1% unemployment rate. Computer engineers now have a 7.5%. So computer
Wow.
engineers, literally graduates, literally have the third highest unemployment rate out of all graduates.
Honestly, I kind of see that. I don't know. I've seen a lot of posts on LinkedIn. There's still a lot of videos of how the job market is not great in terms of computer science and engineering side.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing is they've pumped so many people into this field, and yeah, I mean, it's just oversupply of people. So way too many people are getting into the field at the exact same time. The headcount is just gonna get fucking slashed. So yeah.
Yeah. So what can people do in that case? Or if let's say if I'm a computer engineering grad or computer science grad and it's hard for me to get a job in, let's say, in the traditional roles, then what specific can I work on next?
I think one of the big things, like when I deal with my viewers, so I actually talk with my viewers quite a bit. Most people don't want most people want tech jobs. They don't want the tech work. Again, this is the frustrating thing that I see is like so many people, they get out of their degree program or they get out of their boot camp program, and you can tell because that's the last day they submit anything to GitHub. Like they just won't submit
Yeah.
anything to GitHub unless they're in
Yeah.
school or in work. And you're just like, what the hell? That's not what people want to hire. Like they want to see that you're interested, you're motivated, you're building things. And so I think a lot of people that are in this field don't really want to be in this field. They just want the pay and benefits. And so as things get harder, I think a lot of them are just going to get flushed out of the system. And so if you really want to be a tech professional, you got to focus on solving problems with technology. You have to focus on your company's ROI or the return on investment for hiring you. Like so many young people, it makes me lose my mind when I talk about the company needing to make a profit off of your work. This is a point they argue about. They're like, no, Eli, you don't
Really?
understand. And I'm like, oh God, no, this is not where we get into arguments. Like a lot of people like don't grasp that the company has to make a profit. And so if you want to stay in the tech world, yeah, focus on actually creating solutions. And then with some of this, it'll be a couple of years until it washes out of the system. I mean, again, you don't think about it when the dot-com bubble busted, it was years. It was years until things normalized again.
This is very interesting. So if we're talking about, let's say, tech, right? And then of course there's certain industries, but there's always a few companies people think about when it's the world of tech, right? So there's always Meta, there's Google. OpenAI is now kind of getting there because now they created probably the best model AI model in the West. Obviously, if we are comparing the world, that's probably a different story. But do you think that tech is becoming too centralized just under a few big guys? And what does this necessarily mean for innovation? So you are talking about how the next stage for people that are unemployed
Yeah.
is to innovate, and then of course sometimes the innovation might take time, or even when a new surface of technology gets into a new age, it's going to take time. And right now people are really just innovating, especially when we're at Web Summit and we go to all these conferences, right? So do you think tech is just becoming centralized under these few big players, and then what does that mean for innovation?
I'm not so worried about
You
it.
can go into the politics here, I don't care, but you can talk about anything you want.
Yeah. No, I'm not so worried about it being centralized under the companies. Again, one of the things you have to think about in the technology world is scale brings value, right? If one server requires one administrator, 100 servers requires two administrators, 1,000 servers requires three administrators. So having a centralized system is just going to be far more cost effective for everybody involved. Generally, you will bring better resiliency and that type of thing. The bigger concern that I have with the current tech world isn't the companies that are dominant, it's the personalities that are dominant. I don't care that Facebook is dominant in the messaging world. I care that Mark Zuckerberg is a psychotic bastard that has all voting rights for Meta. Ergo, nobody can outvote him. Like if every
Yeah.
single shareholder in Facebook says no, he can still say yes. He literally can outvote every one of them.
Interesting. That reminds me of OpenAI when they let go of Sam Altman,
Yeah.
and then they just saw the company value decreasing. Then they said, okay, no, we got to bring him back.
Yeah. And like that's the problem. So like if you look at like Facebook is the perfect example. Like so Mark Zuckerberg burned tens of billions of dollars on the metaverse. I knew nobody that actually gave two craps about the metaverse. It wasn't like I had
Yeah.
half of my friends that loved the metaverse and half of my friends that were agnostic. Nobody gave a crap. But he could burn tens of billions of dollars on this thing. Like
Yeah.
so that's the issue that you're getting into is there's so much of this personality driven stuff. And again, like if you look at Elon Musk and without the politics and all that, like the weird thing that he's doing with Tesla. So Tesla isn't a car company, it's an AI company, but it's not actually going to own the AI. XAI is going to own the AI. And it's all like if you actually had a board that was worth a fuck, Like, you wouldn't be having these issues. But because these people put themselves in such a preeminent position, it's not even that the corporation is screwing things up. It's just these singular people are driving these companies in these directions. And that's where I'd say just normal, and I don't know what the hell happened to it. It's nothing revolutionary, just standard corporate governance, I think, would deal with a lot of this stuff. But for some reason that's gone out the window in the tech world.
So if I were just talking about these people that are running the companies, you can't really kind of change what they do, especially if we're going to the political field. Well, of course, we see what Trump is trying to do with the 51st state. You have Elon Musk, the richest man in the world. It's just kind of like on his side, and then you see how, of course, you've seen the clips of what he's done and what he said about everything. I remember because one of my old coworkers was saying that I knew Elon Musk is not a good person since the 10 years ago. I knew how he was trying to build kind of a monopoly of all these sources in the Tesla and SpaceX and everything. I knew how great of a businessman he was trying to do, because when you're a businessman, you are just trying to make profit, and when you kind of have the government on your side and you can just burn kind of lots of money, that's kind of what you have. That's kind of what they like to do, right? When you talk about Mark Zuckerberg, like no one cares about the metaverse, but he just wants to build it regardless. So he has the resources to utilize, right? So this is going to be a very interesting question. Should just is it possible for like tech to stay neutral, or is it always going to reflect like political values, or for whoever's trying to build it regardless?
I don't think it's really even political values. It's, again, I mean, that's one thing. Like, if you go into politics, the issue is all these presidents have kept screwing it up. But, like, again, like under the Biden administration, Facebook was being strong armed in order to suppress certain information. So it's like under
Yeah.
Trump administration, he's trying to suppress certain information, so he's the bad guy. Under the Biden administration, he was trying to suppress information, but he's the good guy. Like, they're all trying to suppress. So I think it's not that the companies or the technology is political. I think they're working in an ever more political environment, and they're just having to deal with the reality of that. I mean, the interesting thing is like how many of these companies are going for government work, and this is what gets concerning
Yeah.
with the Trump administration. So again, if you really want to be scared shitless, Mark Zuckerberg, worst human being in the world, my opinion. Meta is now getting involved with Anduril. So Anduril is Palmer Luckey's company to create what's called affordable mass in warfare. The idea is being able
Yeah.
to just chuck as many cruise missiles at the other side as possible. So they're creating numerous systems. So they're creating submarines, they're creating cruise missiles, all kinds of things. They're also creating this lattice communication network. And part of that is an XR, an extended reality system. So basically, like the Terminator type soldiers will be able to
Yeah.
put these things on their head. Well, so Meta, for some reason, is now partnering with them to create these systems. So the company that is mining your Facebook data is now going to be building systems for American warfighters to go slaughter people. And so
I feel that we kind of seen that trend, but yeah, go on.
But so then the issue is that we're getting too politically with these companies. Again, whether it's Google now or Meta, because Meta was away from the federal government for the most part, or Amazon or whatever, is the politics come in is because now you have contracts worth tens of billions or even hundreds of billions of dollars with the federal government. And then whoever's currently leading the federal government wants you to play ball. And it's not just Lockheed Martin. Right. If Trump comes out and says, I don't want Lockheed Martin to be political, again, who the hell cares? It's Lockheed Martin.
Yeah.
What happens when Meta is making tens of billions of dollars off of creating warfighting systems? And so then Trump or the next guy can say, because we're spending tens of billions of dollars with you here, we expect
Yeah.
over here for you to play ball. And that's where I get more into the concern with politics and things.
Okay, so what scares you more, government control of tech or just tech companies controlling society?
Yeah, I don't know. Scare. I feel like the young people now are just like scared shitless of everything. It's not really
I'm just asking. Well, fine.
no, but
What
that's the
what
thing.
what
There's like this.
more?
Yeah, no, it's just, I don't think it's a fear. I don't know. We're just moving into that future. You know what I'm saying? Like it's I don't know, the government's gonna do what the government's gonna do. Big tech's gonna do what big tech's gonna do. We're gonna do what we're gonna do. Yeah, I don't know. Am I more worried about big tech or government? All of the above.
All of the above. Everything scares you.
Yeah, well, it's not. It's just. It's like if it's like, what are you concerned about? Like, I'm concerned. I'm concerned about what big tech is doing, but I'm also concerned that the government isn't stepping in to deal with big tech. Like, it's weird. Like, so like the government steps in weird places. So like TikTok is supposedly banned. Anyways, they've been trying to ban
Yeah.
TikTok in the U.S. for like 5 years, and who
Well,
knows
they
where.
can't. Yeah, they can't really do that.
Well, no, they can. No, no, it's already passed.
Yeah.
Trump, who originally tried to ban TikTok, is now exempting TikTok from getting banned. Like the law's already passed.
Yeah.
This should be done, but Trump is doing whatever Trump's doing. But the curious thing is like, so TikTok is supposed to be banned because of the information it collects, blah blah. On the other hand, Facebook and all of these companies can collect all the information they want. So it's like the government is doing some things, but it's not doing other things. And so it
Yeah.
just gets into this very mush, I'd say. Yeah. If that makes any sense, I don't know.
No, I'm trying to wrap my head around it. So you are just saying, yeah, the government's gonna do whatever it's gonna do. People, the tech company's gonna do whatever tech company's gonna do, and then we're just gonna do what we are.
Yeah.
We're just gonna be working for us. But at the end of the day, the, you're just a big advocate on how everything's gonna play out the same, regardless on who's controlling what.
I think everything's just gonna play out and like where people finally put their feet down. And again, I don't know where that's going to be. Again, like in the US, like you don't think about it. So our labor laws, like this doesn't get talked about a lot, but like our labor laws, 40-hour work weeks, workman's comp, those types of things. Those rights were paid for in blood. I mean, we had horrible fight because again, I grew up in West Virginia. My family's from West Virginia. There was death and battles and bombings and terrorism and all kinds of shit to get that stuff done. Right? There was a point that there was a point before the labor movement when people just dealt with the insanity. And then the labor movement came up, and you had the Pinkertons and a whole bunch of other stuff happen. And then you had the point afterwards where we had unions. And I think basically, like with a lot of this technology stuff, we have to get to the point when the citizens of the company literally just get fed up. It's like literally, and again, I'm just saying this for anybody out there, this is just metaphorical. We're just in my brain. You have to get to the point when the citizens basically light an Apple store on fire before things are going to change. And when that
So when
happens,
the people start rioting, or when they start speaking up, that's when change is gonna happen.
yeah, basically when it becomes untenable for these businesses and the government to do things how it's been done, it's just simply not functional anymore. That's when it will change. At this point in time, we have a lot of complaints, but I mean, everybody complains about the things that they use, right?
Yeah.
These things are horrible as they sit there and doom scroll. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know.
So now that we're on kind of the topic of people or citizens, so is the average person that's being left behind in the tech world, whether they're not keeping up, or we're just focusing too much on the big guys? Are we expecting too much from people in that second?
I don't know. Are people being left behind? I wonder how many. Like there are some things like old people, like we're dealing with this right now with an older family member. So many things have been put online, and like it happens when you lose your mental faculties and are forced to go through a government website. So that's fun. But beyond that kind of stuff, I mean, I don't know. I guess there'd be a question: are people being left behind? I don't know. I don't know if they are.
The reason why I actually mentioned that is because I remember watching a video about how since technology has gone on an exponential path since for the past 10 years, and we essentially kind of see that same trend happening again, maybe for the next 10 years, some people may have to, even when they're like 30 to 40 years old, they have to upskill themselves to continue their work or continue their path. And how, and some, I believe it was a country in Asia, I believe, they kind of have thought to pass a law that you may have to get another education just to keep up with how technology's been booming.
Hmm.
So I don't think that may happen, that may not happen. I can't control the future. That's how I mean about if the average person is being left behind, or especially if someone is too like for example, their behavior, they're not necessarily trying to keep up with tech. They're just trying to just go with the flow. And then when tech's making the changes, and then they don't have the skills to, let's say, get jobs, and they don't even have the skills to innovate itself, what's really going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, technology will change the jobs and it'll change, how people make money. But I mean, the curious thing with that though is, and again, it's weird with the messaging because I've literally been told this my entire life. Like we talk about globalization and they act like it's a 2000 thing. Again, when in the 1980s, when I was in elementary school, they were telling us about
Yeah.
globalization. Right. And they're also telling us when we were kids, we were young, that our parents were able to have jobs for life, but that we should not expect it. So in the 1980s, we were told not to expect it, that we would have to
Yeah.
constantly be reskilling. And we were being told this in elementary school. So, like with a lot of people nowadays, again, but I don't know if is it a technology thing? Like if technology comes in and eliminates your job, can you outlearn technology? Does learning AI somehow make you more like, so like with phone receptionists, did phone receptionists need to learn how to program or do they need another skill set? Like if you're a phone so there's things called auto attendants when you call them, right?
Yeah.
So when they lost their jobs again 25 years ago and nobody cared, was it really better for them to go and learn to program? Like, are they being left behind by technology or go off to nursing school? So I think there's reskill. I think as technology changes things, we need to think about reskilling our adult
Mm.
population. Whether or not that
That's an
has,
interesting take. Maybe that could be correct as well.
yeah. Even though I talk about technology, I'm not the biggest proponent that everybody has to learn it.
Yeah. No, that is a completely fair point. Although, then this is kind of back to our government talk. How should governments be involved in regulating tech companies, especially around AI, privacy, and misinformation? So kind of going back to when we started this conversation,
Yeah.
kind of how now we're trying to bring the government into that. How can the government be involved?
I mean, basically, what the government should do, really, that I think would solve a lot of problems, is force terms of service to actually be binding contracts. So, like a weird thing that's going on right now is you go to Facebook or you just go to a website essentially at this point and you agree to terms of service. So, you don't have to sign anything, there's no witness, there's no real legal process that happens, but all these terms of service are entirely sided towards the company's point of view. You are entirely disempowered from it and you really don't have any way to deal with things. I mean, I would argue like with these companies, like when it comes to privacy policies, I would say that, I mean, there just simply needs to be a legal framework. Like if you're going to be a media company that sells all of my data, I have zero issue with that as long as that is defined in the terms of service, right?
Yeah.
If I go to Facebook and I sign up and I read the terms of service and it says my data will be protected to some degree, that should also be incredibly binding. If they don't do that, Mark Zuckerberg goes to jail for 5 years. Like I want to start seeing the CEOs go to jail for years for violating their terms of service. And I think that's where the government can step in without over-regulating. The problem we have right now is these companies can do whatever the hell they want. And the problem is that they can change your terms of service, right? You've been using their product for 10 years, and the next time you log in, they go, oh, to keep using this product, you have to agree to this news of terms of service. And I think
Yeah.
just kind of rolling back that amount of power, it would do a lot.
There will probably be a change in legal laws. Obviously, we'll see in the next 5 to 10 years in terms of legalities and some legal issues. Yeah, we might be able to see some of that. So let's just see. We have to hope. We just have to believe in that. So that's actually all the questions I actually have for you, Eli. If you have any questions or just any final thoughts, feel free to just say whatever you want to say.
No, that's I think about all I've got to say on this kind of stuff. Yeah, the future of technology will be interesting. Again, I don't think it's quite what we're being sold. Again, it's like with blockchain. Like we were told blockchain was going to be the future, and nobody really cares about blockchain other than Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about blockchain. Again, VR was supposed to be the future. Nobody really cares about VR. I think again with AI, a lot of utility. I just think it's being oversold. So I think it's more just for like any of the viewers, it's like don't listen to the people that are trying to get investment money for how you integrate technology into your life and you move your career ahead. Just look at the practical issues and figure out where you fit into that future.
Okay, well, there you have it. Eli the Computer Guy with some wise wisdom at the end, we can say. Well, feel free to check out Eli the Computer Guy's YouTube account. I will put in the description itself. You're okay with that, right?
Yep.
All right, that's great. Eli, thank you once again for being on this podcast, and I really appreciate you bringing in your time and expertise. I really enjoyed it today. I'm not sure about you, but I enjoyed it.
It's
I
fun.
know you enjoyed it, let's just say. But yeah, no, thank you so much. And I'm speaking to the audience. If you want to hear anyone else for who I want to interview, or especially for a certain type of technology, just feel free to share in the comments, or just feel free to do whatever you want. So, this is the end of the All Facts Podcast episode. I'm Harsh Vikar, and I'm out.